Welcome to the Optimal Bio podcast. At Optimal Bio, we don't just balance your hormones, we balance your whole body. Our conversations range from nutrition to medicine with an emphasis on wellness tips to support your health journey. If you like what you hear, find us on the web at optimalbio.com and follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for joining another episode of the Optimal Bio podcast. Today, we are joined by Sarah Frick, the founder of The Works and co-owner of The Works Cycle here in Charleston. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to talk all things The Works, your story, and of course, I guess we'll talk about hormones because that's what we talk about, right?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So really, I love understanding people's why. And as you know, I love The Works. It's one of my favorite things about Charleston. So kind of give me a background of you,
Okay.
and why did you get into wellness in the first place? And then we'll jump into The Works.
Cool. So I started practicing yoga in my very early 20s. I'll be 42 actually on Thursday. So I've been
Happy
doing
birthday.
this, thank you, over half my life. As soon as I started practicing, I absolutely loved it. It was like, it just, growing up playing sports, there was like a beginning, middle, and end with that, but not with yoga. Yoga is such a continuum. So it's like, it always kept my attention. And I just always found that there was like more to learn, more to grow. And it wasn't just about like the fitness, but I did love the fitness because it was super challenging.
Yeah.
And so I practiced for a few years and then I got my teaching certificate, started teaching in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I moved to Charleston soon after that. And I was working for Lululemon at the time. And then I opened up a store for them in Charleston. I was teaching like a million different places. And then the recession happened. And so Lululemon pulled out a lot of their hot markets, warmer climate markets, and they offered to move me and at the time, the woman who worked with me to Chicago. And we were both like, no, we don't want to leave Charleston.
A little different. Yeah.
No, thanks. And so we were like, let's open a studio. So my business partner and I at the time, we opened a studio called Charleston Power Yoga. Beth still owns one of those studios. One has closed. We had two studios. And then after many, many years together, I decided I wanted to do my own thing. And we decided to open The Works.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And there's so many fitness studios in Charleston, which are also great. But really what makes you different, from your team to your classes, like how do you create that environment?
So a big thing for us at The Works is culture. And we want everyone to feel like really welcome at the studio. So the actual modality of the work sweat is a room. The heat is on. We're doing yoga, cardio, heart work, core work. It's really just having a big conversation. And, I was telling my class this morning, I was like, my job is not to make you comfortable. Like, this is your job to work out what you need on your 6 feet of real estate on your mat. And I think like my team is so amazing. And one of the biggest parts that I love about it is being able to be part of a team of mainly women. We have some amazing men that work with us as well. But like I always said, even when I opened my first studio, I think 13 years ago, 14 years ago, I don't even know. But I wanted it to be a platform for women, young women especially, to come find their voice, figure out like what was going on in their lives, being able to speak from their power. And we've really done that. I mean, we've seen so many people. I've trained so many teachers with the help of some wonderful men that work with me. And I think like we really, we talk about a lot of things that are different than other people talk about. We talk about everything basically. And I always feel like, if you share your story, you give someone else permission to share theirs. And so the fitness always gets people in the room, but what we do in that room is really what I think attracts people. And the fact that like I've been doing this in this town, like I said, I believe I know I've been teaching in this town at least for 16 years. And I have a lot of the same people. So it's like we've kind of grown up together.
Right.
It's like we all had babies together and now we're all moving into our 40s and our 50s. And it's like the practice, like everyone's so strong and everything's staying the same, but it's like our bodies are changing.
Right,
and
exactly.
Our needs are changing.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to have this community. We've traveled, we've taught all over the world. We're so blessed. We do international retreats and we get to touch a lot of people and meet a lot of people, but like there's absolutely nothing like Charleston to me. Like Charleston is home and it's just like putting 60 people in a room at 8:30 and just balling out, listening to music and
Mhm.
having fun and laughing and crying and doing it all.
Yeah. Charleston is so special. I had a meeting downtown this morning. I was, like, just walking through the streets. I'm like, to walk through this every
I know,
day
it's
is
amazing.
you can just feel it. It obviously it's beautiful, but there's just a different energy about
Yeah,
Charleston, and it's very welcoming. Even though people move here all the time, it still has that welcoming feel.
totally. Yeah, I love Charleston. There really is my good buddy, he owns Home Team Barbecue, and we talk a lot about growing, and you and I have
Yeah.
kind of talked about
Yeah.
this, like, growing out of the city and everything, and he's like, "Just don't forget Charleston's Disney World."
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Everyone's gonna love you and everyone's nice
Yeah.
here." I'm like, "Okay, valid."
Yeah, true, but it's fun. It's fun to go in different
Yeah,
cities because
yeah.
you learn so
I
much.
know. I mean, I need to sit down and ask you 1,000
We'll
questions.
chat.
Yeah,
I love talking about business,
yeah.
but, talking about, the community, I think it's so huge because people think of working out as a physical thing, and
Mhm.
100% it is
Yep.
physical, but the mental aspect and, like, finding your voice, especially as a woman, and going through all the seasons
Mhm.
together is really neat because I always joke, like, if I could say everyone at Optimal Bio has to work out in the morning,
Yeah.
I would because it sets you up for your day in so many different ways.
So much. I mean, it's it's a non-negotiable for me in my life. I have
Same.
3 small children, and, my husband's a business owner too, and we are
Mhm.
in a million different
Yeah,
directions. Every day after school, we have homework, sports. I mean, it's never ending, but,
yeah,
like, my time in the morning, it's like I have to sweat. If
exactly.
I don't sweat, I am a psychopath.
Oh, the days that my workouts are off, I'm like, you just don't feel like you, and
No.
it's
I
just
plan my
nothing
life
settled.
around.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because if you work out, it's an hour that you're not thinking,
Yeah.
you're working on your body, you're working on your mind, so then whatever else happens during the day, you're like, "Okay, I can
Yeah.
figure it out."
Yeah.
Kinda like you said, you're there to make them feel uncomfortable,
Mhm.
which I love. Have you read The Comfort Crisis?
No.
So I haven't either, it's on the list, but
Okay.
it's just talking about how we're so used to being
Oh, I need to
comfortable
read
and
this.
how bad it is for us, but
Yeah.
just
Complacency is the devil.
exactly, I'm like, if that's where you go to just, like, it's extreme, but to die, but could
Yeah.
just that complacency just day to day and not any spice, like, good, bad,
Yeah.
indifferent, yeah.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
always like when people, like, retire, like, we were not meant to retire, so we're not going to work every
Right.
day, but what does that mean?
Right.
So, how do you, plan your classes and create new classes?
So that is a big part of our culture at the studio is feedback.
Mhm,
So we are in each other's rooms. My lead instructors are in my room. And we just are really specific in particular. I mean, everything from movement to m- voice to music to the
mhm.
cueing to what you're saying. I mean, we talk a lot about like filler words. Like when I'm teaching, I know my filler word is like good, good, good. I
Yeah.
took Maggie's class the other day and I was like, class was fire, but you said truly like 7,000 times.
Mhm.
And it sounds like silly and meticulous, but at the end of the day, like what we're offering is an experience.
Exactly.
And I want every time somebody steps foot into one of our rooms, I
Mhm.
want them to have an experience. I don't want
Exactly.
them just to have a class. I want it to be like a whole moment for them.
Mhm.
And I do believe that is what separates us from other businesses and other studios I've been to or worked at is that we are fully invested.
Mhm.
Like we are in each other's rooms. I'm in their room, they're in my room. And I always say to my team too, like when you stop loving this,
Mhm.
it's time to take a break
Yeah.
because if you're not practicing what you're
Yeah.
preaching, it's not going to work. It's just
Yeah.
not. And people see that and people feel that. And like those energetics, just it's not what we're looking for. Like
Yeah.
I actually said to my class this morning at 8:30, I was like, we are in each other's rooms all the time because we hold you to a high standard. And
Yeah.
I promise you, we're meeting you there. Like
Exactly.
we're elevating with you.
And
So
that's the environment you want. You want
totally.
to make each other better, whether it's, the people in the classes, your teachers. There's always those studies how the B students are the worst because or like the coworkers, because the A does well and
Mhm.
makes you better. The C usually gets let go.
Yeah.
But the B just kind of hangs around and your productivity in whatever way you're gonna look at it goes down 20% just by being in that type of
Yeah.
environment. And you want people who want to be better in your rooms, right?
Totally.
Like, that's why we're there,
Yeah.
which makes a big difference. And
Yeah.
you said, like, filler words. The small details are the big details, right? And
Totally.
and the atmosphere, and it's an everyday thing of
Mhm.
trying to be better, and it's your brand.
Oh
And it
yeah.
might be that one person's first experience, and you want them to have that experience and why they're there, and
Yep.
for them to come back because you know how it's gonna help them.
Right, and I say this to my team as well, and I was with some teacher trainings this weekend, I'm like, "Whether you're teaching to, like, 100 people
Mhm.
or 1 person,
Yeah.
you teach.
Yeah.
You teach the whole class, you
Mhm.
teach from your heart because you don't know, like, how that's gonna affect that person, what they need that day. Like, we never know
Exactly.
what people are coming in with,
No.
and so we can never assume or just be like, "Oh, it's a small number, this sucks, I'm not gonna give it my
Right.
all," because that one person could go tell 25 of
Yep.
their friends, and they could come back.
Exactly.
So,
It's just that perspective and, like, being present where you are.
yep, for sure.
So you talked about culture. So how do you, like, structure your team, your meetings, your trainings? Like, what does that look like?
So I have in-house, I have a studio manager,
Mhm.
and then I have someone who Tara's our studio manager. She's amazing. And then Sean does all of like newsletters, graphics.
Okay.
Carter
Mhm.
runs all of our like she does a lot of social with
Mhm.
Sean, and then she'll do any of our like partnerships, lots of any of like the PR stuff.
Mhm.
And she's like the most organized human in the world, and I am the absolute
Yeah.
opposite. So
That's why you
she
need both.
I know,
Yeah.
she keeps me in line for
Yeah.
sure. And then I have a leadership team of teachers, 3 women that are amazing. And then honestly, like a lot of my team has been there for a while. So
Yeah.
everybody's just starting to kind of raise up, and we have a lot of young teachers. So we structure the business like that. And then
Mhm.
like for culture, it's one of our big things is like no gossip culture.
Yeah.
I've worked in places before where it was very contentious. And as we all know, it takes one bad egg
One bad egg.
and it brings the vibe down.
Mhm.
And so if there's an issue, like y'all need to talk to each other, you need to
Yep.
come to me, and we'll figure it out.
Right.
Also like super open door
Mhm.
policy. If anyone needs anything, like we're there, we're very supportive outside of just the business. Like I
Mhm.
know all of the people that work for me pretty intimately as
Yeah.
well. So we are there for each other through not just the good parts, but all the parts.
Right.
And I think, Meggie was actually, who's one of my head teachers, and she's the she runs our teacher training. She was talking this weekend and she's like, she came with me from my last studio and she was like, Sarah invested in me and believed
Mhm.
in me, even when there was like 3 people in my room.
Right.
And, now she's busy as hell. And like, she's like, so I wanted to be with do what she was doing
Right.
because I think it's like, and you know this too, like I'm always like, treat your people good,
Mhm.
pay them well,
Mhm.
respect them, listen to them. Like they're people, they have lives
Yeah,
outside of this.
yeah.
Their whole mission is not just to work for you.
Right.
And then be open to having really hard conversations that
And
make people uncomfortable.
exactly, and that's the thing, like, having the relationship, knowing people, giving them, your time, it's because you're gonna have those hard
Yeah.
conversations because if you want to get better, if you want others to get better, you're gonna have those
Yeah.
conversations, and then if you don't have that relationship, then it's not gonna make it, like, a better version of that hard conversation or make it worthwhile.
And I think too, it's like we're always in the learning. So even when we're having hard conversations, like it's like how that can you can apply that anywhere in your life,
Exactly.
and like I always I mean I say to my classes too, like believe me, I'm no expert, like I probably need this more than anybody
Yeah,
else,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm talking to hear
Yeah,
myself too.
exactly.
And that's a big part of like you have to be in the work.
Mhm.
If you're not in the work, it's not working anymore, and it's time for you to either take a break or maybe do something else.
Exactly, and you realize, like, the work's gonna be hard, and I feel like as you get older and you meet, like, adults, because I don't even consider myself an adult, but, here
A
we
little
are,
bit, you're young,
right?
you're
Yeah,
still young.
but it's like you realize who put the work in and who didn't, so it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you're 60 or 20, you should always be putting in the work and learning, because what is, like, your purpose, your joy, and it's a lot of hard work and hard seasons or, good days too, but I think
Yep.
people just think you're gonna wake up one day and be a good person or be a better person, and
Yeah.
whatever that may look like for you, but
Yeah.
it takes a lot.
It does, and I think that goes back to your point about, like, the comfort thing, like,
Mhm.
I see this in my children, and I think this is generational too, and, we had parent-teacher conferences yesterday, my oldest son, he academically, he's always just it's just come
Yeah,
easy, and
yeah.
this year's been more challenging for him,
Mhm.
and it's so funny what you said because they work with this program where the teachers you can go in and redo things, like,
Mm.
over and over again, and she was like, "Waylon, like, these are the grades, and your mom has reached out to me, and she
Yeah.
wants" and he's like, "Well, it's a B." And I'm like and John and I were sitting in there and we were like, "No." Like, if you
Right.
worked your ass off for that B,
100%, exactly.
I totally but you're
Yes.
doing 30% of your effort
Right, right.
to not do it, and I think
Exactly.
it's, like, a little bit of, like, an epidemic with this generation. I
Mhm.
can only speak to my children, but it's like everything's easy.
Yep.
Everything's on a screen,
Mhm.
and my children are very privileged children as well, and I
Mhm.
know that, and it's like, "You wanna play soccer? Okay, we'll play soccer.
Right.
You need new cleats. Okay, let's buy new cleats," and it's
Exactly.
I think finding the balance of teaching them as well, and yesterday was kinda like a big aha moment for
Yeah.
me of like, just because I can provide it for you
Mhm.
because I've worked so hard and your dad
Right.
has worked so hard does not
Right.
mean that everything should be served to you on a silver
Yeah.
platter.
Yeah.
Because as a parent on the front end, it's actually easier just to give and all right, here, have it, be quiet. But now I'm
Exactly.
like seeing that like retribution and I'm like, okay, we got to pull back a little bit. You got to
Right.
work for some of this stuff.
Exactly. I am not a mom, but I think about it, like, the hardest job in the world and a parent
Yeah.
because especially it's like you can give it to them and it can be easier, but it's like, you know what got you to you, right?
Yeah.
And it's putting in the hard work and
Totally.
not just be given things, but finding that balance,
Yeah.
especially the world we live in right now.
Oh my gosh.
Everything's at our fingertips, everything
Everything.
can be easy, everything is quick, and it's like, that's just not where you get the good,
I
not the
know.
quick, right? Yeah.
You don't gain any like character.
No. That's why like, you can tell people who played sports growing up and who didn't,
Mhm.
because, like, the discipline, like, you get knocked down physically, mentally,
Yeah.
and you grow from that.
Yep. Yeah.
I think is huge, yeah. Do your kids ever come to the works? Don't you have, like, a
They
team
do.
sport class
So
now? Yeah.
they Tuesdays in Mount Pleasant, they go and do yoga,
Yeah.
and then sometimes my older son has come with me and taken a class.
Yeah. I love that.
It's sweet. It is fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun. And then my daughter and my older son came with me this weekend. A friend of mine teaches at the Poorhouse on
Yeah.
Sundays, and so we went and took her class, and
That's so
it's
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Especially because, as kids, you can play sports and it's so great, but being able to know, like, you can continue that, it's gonna look different, right? We
Yeah.
don't have a soccer game at 8 AM on Saturday,
Right.
but understanding the why and the love of moving your body,
Mhm.
I think is so, so big.
Totally.
Especially, as a generation, we're getting sicker and it's like, why? And I think
Yeah.
we're so sedentary. Like, I think about it all the time. I'm like, I sit so
I
much
know.
during the day, and it's so bad for
Well,
you.
and it has to be like, because Carter and I talk about this as well, like, it has to be a lifestyle, like,
Yes.
yes, I can work out my
Mhm.
45, 60-minute block, but if I'm, like, throwing McDonald's down my throat
Right.
and not moving my body the rest of the day, that's, like, null and void. It has
Exactly.
to be like, "Okay, so now it's, like, beautiful outside. Alright, let's take a 30-minute walk, and let's
100%.
drink some water,"
Yep.
you know?
And then it's a lifestyle forever. You're
Yeah.
not like, "Oh, I need a bathing suit season's coming
Yep.
up," and then you kinda wanna do the quick fix, and then you don't understand the why or the
Quick
love of
fixes
it.
do not work.
They do not, but we're in such a
I've tried them all, they don't work.
right? They don't. It's so funny here, people will be like, "Well, when can I feel this? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
tomorrow?" And it's like, "No," but we're just so used to that.
Yeah.
That's why
Everybody wants
yes.
immediate results, and
Right.
that's another big part of some of the stuff we talk about. It's like, you gotta keep showing up to the table,
Yes.
like, for 99.99% of the things that you do, you don't do it
Mhm.
once and it works.
No.
You gotta
No.
keep coming, you gotta keep trying. We have
Exactly.
a lot of people in our room that, are in recovery, like,
Yeah.
from, alcohol, drugs,
Yeah.
whatever, and it's like, they didn't just do it one day and all of a
Mhm.
sudden it's great,
Right.
So it's like the practices, the systems
Mhm.
in the rooms are so applicable to other areas of our lives
Yes.
as well,
Mhm.
whatever it is your thing
Yep.
is. I remember when I was going through fertility and I walked in and the doctor said, he was like, "The name of this game is persistence." And I
Mhm.
said, "You have met your girl."
Yeah, yeah, like, I can do that, yeah.
I got this. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and yeah, I can go on and on about the benefits of that, but it's just who do you wanna be, right? And what is your why? Because that's
Mhm.
gonna keep going, and I think it's also important we like, "Well, if I show up, I have to have the best workout today." But your best may be 10% that
Yeah.
day, but it's just showing up
Yep.
and creating that persistence and that discipline.
Mhm.
So, the work cycle.
Mhm.
Why did you create the work cycle?
So Carter and I, during the pandemic, we were like sitting on my porch, and because at that point we had opened the downtown studio. I had opened the downtown studio, she helped me. And then I was opening up the Mount Pleasant
Okay.
studio while during the pandemic. And we had been looking at like growing into other
Mhm.
cities pretty like seriously. And I was like, we didn't know
Mhm.
who knew what was going on.
Right. No one.
And so we were like, and she'd wanted to buy into the business, and I had already had a partner, and I was like, I want this business to
Yeah.
be mine.
Yep.
And so we both like to cycle. Carter
Mhm.
was like an avid cyclist. When
Mhm.
she lived in New York, she did a lot of Soul
Oh, cool. Yep.
Cycle. And we were like, let's open a cycle
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
And we have some really great friends in town, Katie Penta, who is an amazing instructor. And we reached out to her and we're kind of playing with this idea. What do you
Mhm.
think? She's like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And so, I have to give Carter and KP a lot of credit for that. I really am like, my partnership in that is the brand, the
Mhm.
culture.
Mhm.
I am not a cycle
Yeah,
instructor,
yeah.
like at all. I don't know how they move their legs so
Right,
fast.
yeah, all of it, yeah.
But yeah, so we just, we're always looking for an extension of who we are.
Yep.
That's why I have a podcast as
Mhm.
well. A buddy of mine, he lives in LA and he's he works with like really big names out there.
Mhm.
And I remember when we were talking and he was like, don't be a one trick pony.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, you want to make this work? You
Yep.
want to, and there's nothing wrong with saying this. Like, you want to make some money?
Yeah.
Like, put yourself out there, love what you do, be freaking passionate, be
Yep.
all in, and like don't only see one way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's your brand, right? And like you love what you do and it's so evident. So it just can facilitate in different
Yep.
ways. But also that's why it goes back like the little details or the big details
Mhm.
because it's not like you just open, spin, and hope for the best,
Right.
right?
No.
Because then it's a reflection of you and your team and what you're building. And it's an everyday thing. You
Yeah.
know, you didn't just wake up one day and like, oh wow, everyone loves the works, right?
Right.
One of my friends, because I would go to the works classes, and she's like, "You have to try spin," and I love spin. And where I live, there's not a good spin classes, and so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go." I went to a class. I literally texted her as I was walking out. I was like, you are correct. Like it is the
Yeah.
best." And like anytime I come down here, it's like top of my list to come
Yeah.
because it's just something different and it's something special. And I joke like that one day I'll move to Charleston, but I'm always like, it's because the works is here, and
Yeah.
like it makes such a big
Well, it's
difference.
good to have community.
It is.
Like a healthy community too,
Yes.
you know,
Mhm.
like where it's fun, you know, if you want to go have some drinks with your friends or do this or that, but like a community that is centered around like mental, physical, and emotional well-being
Exactly.
is very important. Our mental well-being is so huge, and I think to have a whole group of people that are like on board with that
Mhm.
makes it like not a shameful thing to talk about.
Exactly, because it's all connected.
Mhm.
Like your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health,
Oh
it's
yeah,
all connected, and especially, like, we've talked about kind of just our life now, it's just like when you're staring at a screen, you're seeing these fake lives,
yeah.
it's not good, you gotta be in it.
Yeah, you gotta be in it, you gotta be
Yes.
living it.
Exactly.
I sat on a panel with this woman once, and I've said this so many times, but it was such a, like, an aha moment for me, and she was like, "Do you think you wanna save the rainforest when you feel like shit?" And I was like,
Exactly.
"So valid."
Yes,
Like, she was like,
yes.
"Self-care is not selfish.
No.
Like, you need to feel good to do good."
Yeah.
So,
Health is the foundation of your life.
yeah.
Like, personal, professional, health is your foundation. Because exactly, like, if you don't feel well, you're not in a good mind space, like, how are you gonna get up and do the hard work?
Mhm.
Do you ever, like, listen to Lewis Howes, his podcast?
Mm-mm.
He talks a lot about, like, how you can't have like, you have to have the health as your foundation, and it's
Mhm.
gonna be look different for different seasons, but you've gotta put a focus on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, where do you see the works, like, the next 2 years? I hate when people ask 5
I
years, I'm
mean,
like
you know, we are in talks we are constantly in talks with growth. For
mhm.
me, my hardest part, and I say
Yeah.
this, I'm like scream this from the rooftops because if anyone help me, is
Yeah.
like I don't have a product.
Yeah.
I'm the product.
Yeah.
Maggie's the product.
Yep.
Carter's the product. So it's hard to scale.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, we want the works. We got the money. We'll do this, this, this. And I'm like, yeah, but how we got to train all these people. And
Right.
if they're, like you said, like it's our brand, like if they're not
Yep.
great,
Right. And
I'm
that
going to
quality
freak
control.
out.
Oh, I think about this every single night when I'm laying in
Yeah.
bed. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. It's, you know, people are, it's hard to
It's hard.
get great people. And at the same time, I know so many people that are like, you can do that.
Yeah. You
It's
can.
like, do you want to do it?
Exactly.
And that's,
And
you know, that's again where I am. It's like,
yeah,
do I want to do it?
exactly.
I
And
think
so
so.
yeah, I think so. You do great, but it's yeah, scaling and like you said, you're the product.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Mhm.
And you're not just gonna go like half-ass something and just
No.
be like, well, hopefully this works,
Right.
right? Well, if you wanna come to Raleigh,
Yeah.
I fully support that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's switch gears
Okay.
to health,
Okay.
wellness, because I know we have a lot of questions
Yeah,
about
yeah.
hormones. So I guess we can start with kind of like your journey
Yep.
to optimal bio and then jump into questions that some
Totally.
people have.
So I met you. You
Yes.
came on my podcast,
Yes.
and I really had no idea. I didn't know anything.
Mm,
And I've always been interested in like anything that would make me feel
yeah.
better, that was also like healthy. I'm so down for.
Yeah.
And so you started talking, and I was like, my jaw was on the table.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is, and I hope she doesn't care if I say this, but I don't think she will. But we can, if we decide to cut it, we can. Lindsay, who's my producer,
Mhm,
the first
yeah.
time I came in, her partner was here too,
Yeah.
and like you literally hooked us both.
That's
We were like,
amazing.
yeah, we're coming. I mean, it sells itself.
Right,
You're,
because we all are dealing with those
yeah,
symptoms.
you're like, are you tired? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Brain fog, yeah.
Yeah.
Bloating, yeah.
Yeah,
Inflammation, yeah.
exactly.
So I decided to come. I got my blood work done, and like then literally I was like got my first placement I think in July,
Mhm.
and it took of like you know a few weeks or
Yeah.
whatever. But I think like for me, I just started feeling I knew like I like had energy at the end of the
Mhm.
day, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
crazy. I started feeling less inflammation. I could
Mhm.
like definitely like and I can see more like lean muscle mass that I
Mhm.
used to have when I was younger.
Yeah.
Um, I just started feeling better. all over.
And that's the thing, we're like, we just want for you to feel like you again. We're not
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, you're 40, you should be 20 again." It's like, no, we're all glad we're not 20 anymore, right?
Right.
But it's like, how can you feel like you and like all those symptoms you said when you say, "Oh, testosterone has 500 functions, estrogen, progesterone." It's like, but what does that really mean? And it
Mhm.
touches so many facets
Yep.
of your body, of your health. And as we're aging and because of environmental factors, we're just decreasing. And it's like, oh, this is why I feel this way.
Right.
And if we can give you a natural solution to feel better and then, like, keep that preventative aspect, like,
Right.
why not try it,
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah, because with my blood work, she was like, and I'm gonna say this wrong, is it perimenopause? Yeah,
Perimenopause? Yeah.
perimenopause. She was like, "You're there." I was like, "That's fine. I don't wanna have kids anymore, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm good." But, she was like, "What's great about what we're doing now is, like, this will make you see you won't have, like, a big collapse, a big fall off when that
Exactly.
happens."
Yeah, no, I always joke that I'm not gonna go through menopause because,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's your FSH level. I'm like, once we start seeing that rise, give me some estrogen. And because we think of menopause as like weight gain, hot flashes, night sweats, like people don't really talk as much. I feel like it's coming out more, but the anxiety and the
Yeah.
depression.
Yep.
But two, it's like, well, what does that mean to your body? And it's the heart attacks, the dementia. So it's really like those symptoms outwardly are trying to tell us like something's not right
Yeah.
inside and really protecting that.
Yeah, totally.
But I love that you're feeling better because, of course, I want all of our patients to feel better. But the people that I know, I'm like, okay, how is it helping you?
Yeah.
Do you feel
Oh
better?
my gosh, I've sent like several women here too, and like one of them is a good friend of mine, and I ran into her at the gym. I mean, this was like a week after, and
Yeah.
before I say what I'm going to say, it's not about a number on a scale, but
Yep.
as she's my age, and
Mhm.
like we have several children, and
Yeah.
like my body has changed. I
Right.
put on like when I turned 38, and that was right during the pandemic, I put on like 20 pounds,
Yeah.
just like. But I think that's when everything was
Right. You're
shifting. And I ran into her at the gym like a week after she had her replacement. She was like, "I've lost 7 pounds."
yeah. That's
She's like, "But
incredible.
more importantly, I feel so good. I have energy. I'm
Yeah.
sleeping,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's how I mean, I literally like, I just felt like I wasn't like I wasn't like just like eating my kids' food because I'm
Right.
tired. Like it's all a symptom of something else. It's
Exactly.
not like
Exactly.
that was the outcome of what it
Right.
was, but it was like I just was like, no, you're fine. Like you deserve to have a proper meal. You're a grown up. Make
Exactly.
yourself something to eat.
Right, it's like when you can't sleep, then you're gonna be tired,
Yep.
then your food choices,
Yep.
it all builds on each other,
Totally.
and it's like, yeah, the number on the scale, there's so much more to it, but it makes you feel better,
Absolutely.
especially when you're doing all the right things, so then you can be so frustrated that can lead to, say, like, depression, whatever it may look like, it
Yep.
manifests to you, and that's the thing, it can help people in so many different ways depending on your symptoms and how are you feeling, but it just makes me happy because what we were talking about, health is the foundation, and of course, there's so many pieces to it. But because so many patients that we see have been to other doctors, right? And they're either told, oh, you're fine. Oh, it's just your age. So then it's like, okay, so am I going to feel like this for the next 40, 50 years of my
Yeah.
life? Like, how sad is that when
Yeah.
you should be like living and traveling and doing
Totally.
whatever you want
Yeah.
and not feeling like, oh, well, I'm going to just be tired for the
Yep.
next 50 years.
Yep. And I think too, to your point, like I have another friend who came and got hers, and she's like, "Well, when is it all going to happen?"
Mhm.
And I was like, "So here's the deal," kind
Yeah.
of like the immediate thing. I
Yeah.
said, "This is piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
This is not like you can't be like, well, nothing changed, so I don't believe in it or
Right.
whatever it is." It's
Yep.
like this is a part of the health puzzle. Like
Exactly.
this is not like it's not like there's no one answer to
No.
everything. Like we
No.
have to, work every aspect, the food, the
Right.
exercise, the mental, whatever, the
Yeah.
emotional, and like the supplement part. And I think that when I decided I was going to do
Mhm.
this, I decided I was like, okay, if you're going to like go to the lengths of doing something like
Mhm.
this, you need to take stock of everything else you're doing too.
Yep.
I think I was over exercising
Mhm.
because
Which
it
needs to be
stresses
talked about
it
'cause
stressed my body out, and
and
when
giving
I was younger,
inflammation.
I could do it more, like,
Right.
it just that was always my easy
Yep.
fix,
Right.
and it was like the inflammation was
Yep.
crazy, I was in
Exactly.
pain,
Yes.
and so I was like, "Let's just." I mean, I'm still I still work out on 6 days a week, usually
Yeah.
5 days a week, but
Yeah.
I mean, I was, like, working out,
Oh,
like, 3 hours a
right,
day.
and it's specific to your body, right? Because 'Cause you're
Totally.
meant to work out. That is
Yes.
who you are.
Yes. I mean, I'm in
Yes.
those rooms all the time, and I mean,
Exactly.
it's part of my, like, my mental therapy
Right.
too.
Yeah.
But, and I think when I recognized, like, some of my behaviors were,
Mhm.
like, a little off,
Yeah.
they were, like, old coping tools that
Mhm.
weren't
Mhm.
working anymore, it also was, like, so freeing for me.
Yeah.
And that's also, like, I think scary too. So the first time I stepped
Yeah.
on a scale was, like, right around when we started doing this,
Yeah.
and I started doing this, and I hadn't stepped on a scale in 2.5 years,
Yeah.
mainly because I have had on and off, like, eating things, and then when I started putting the weight on, I was like, I just I honestly, I remember talking to Carter and I was like, I think this is just who I am now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just getting older,
Yeah.
buy bigger clothes,
Yeah.
which there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not
Right.
trying to have the body I had when I was
Right.
30
But
by
you
any
wanna
means.
feel
I
good.
wanna feel good. I wanna feel
Exactly.
like good and I wanna feel like
Yes.
sexy to my husband, and
Exactly.
like, um, and I mean, to be honest, like I'm tried to like, just do everything in my clothes. And then I stepped on the scale like recently. And since I've started this, I've lost 15 pounds.
That's incredible. Especially because you are so healthy. You are
And
so
I
active.
I've always eaten like decent,
Right.
and like and again, like I think we should be able to talk about weight as freely as we'd like to, and like
Yeah.
that wasn't my driving force. I just
Exactly.
wanted to feel better. But
Exactly.
that was a symptom of everything I was doing to try desperately to feel
Right.
better, and it wasn't working.
Yeah,
And
and then it's
I was
frustrating.
so frustrated.
Exactly, and it's because testosterone burns fat and you gain muscle,
Yeah.
and so that's what helps, like, just
Oh,
burn it off.
I mean, I lift, I was doing everything, and
Yeah,
I was not getting. I was like,
right.
"Why? Where is my bicep?"
Exactly,
You
it's
know?
because wait, testosterone is the gas to your body, so if you don't have testosterone, then you're just going in this cycle,
Yeah.
and, like, what to your friend was like, "Well, when am I gonna feel better?" We're helping 20, 30, 10 years of different symptoms, issues, inflammation, so each person is gonna look a little different. Like, when I started treatment, it was for the fatigue,
Mhm.
and I felt the difference at 6 weeks, So I always wanna have that conversation with people. It's like, give it time little by
Yep.
little, and, like, what are we trying to fix? It's gonna be that root cause, not that quick fix that we're all so used to.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I always say, like, I have gotten patients at bars, at the gym, like,
Yeah.
random places because I think it's wonderful, like, health is just more of topic of a conversation and how we feel, so it just comes up, and I'm like, "Well, have you heard of testosterone?"
Yeah.
Like, just because even if it's not right for that person, not right for them now, just giving that hope of a solution to someone, I think, is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's jump into people's questions.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. Let's see. All right. I mean, like, so many things, like this woman, "WTF, I'm on day 4 of my pellet, and I cannot believe the difference." I got them too, huge difference. Okay, question. Do do you guys do this for other hormones too, and how big is the incision?
Yeah. So for women premenopause, you only get testosterone. So women need more testosterone than estrogen in our bodies. No one knows that. There might be some one-off cases that 35 female has different types of PMS headaches. They may give a low dose of estrogen, but normally premenopause only testosterone for women. Perimenopause, menopause, based on symptoms and your blood work, you'll get estrogen, estradiol specifically in a pellet, and then you have progesterone oral capsule at night. And then men, just testosterone.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, how do you know what to ask for in your blood test, or do they know what to test for?
We know what to test for, which is nice. So the initial panel has 42 labs. So it's your full sex hormones and thyroid hormones, which play together, and it shows the full picture. So usually when people get their thyroid tested, it's just their TSH, which actually shows nothing about how your thyroid's working. For our thyroid panel specifically, is 10 panels just for the thyroid, and then the full sex hormones. So we know exactly what to test for, and then we review it with you. The providers do, and then we use that blood work, height, weight, and activity level, and then to dose your hormones. So it's very specific to you.
Awesome. Um, I heard it leaves a lot of scar tissue if you do it for a long time. Do they discuss this?
Oh, yes, and so the incision. The incision is like, look at your pinky fingernail, and it's smaller than that. So for a female, it's about 3.5 millimeters.
Okay.
We don't use a stitch. We use steri strips or Dermabond, and then it just heals. We do not have a lot of scar tissue. Of course, depending on the person,
Right.
it can happen, history, but our providers are very highly trained. Our medical director is a surgeon, so he actually had a specific way that we place differently than most people who place pellets, which helps alleviate the scar tissue.
Awesome. All right, let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Where did you go? You there? Okay. Okay, is it expensive or does insurance cover the cost? What is the price?
Yes. So the initial consultation where you meet with the provider, going over your symptoms, health history, the science behind hormones, BHRT, that is $250. Any other follow-up consult, if you have questions about treatment, reviewing labs, those are free of charge. The placement for women is $525, $725 for men. Women get placed every 3.5 to 4.5 months, and then men get placed every like 5 to 6 months. We do have a payment plan that we can split each into thirds. The initial lab panel is $280, but that's the one time you do it. And then going forward for pre-pellet labs before placements are $155. We do not accept insurance. We do accept HSA or FSA. And then we do have an option that you can take your blood work elsewhere. We have group rates with LabCorp, meaning we get very good group rates. So like our initial panel, that's $280. You can go somewhere else and keep like $2,000. But we do have a couple of different options and really make it, piece by piece to make it manageable.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you would want to share on that note?
Pricing or?
No, I mean, I think I got through all that. Let me look, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Any other questions that people have asked you?
I mean, people like I said, people were like, so what have you noticed besides energy?
Yeah.
But I feel like we've covered a lot of that.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I mean, I think it's, like we were talking about at the beginning, it's so connected, like mental, physical, emotional well-being. And, we put our money, and I'm not speaking to everybody, but a lot of my clientele are similar to me. Like you'll put your money to get your face lasers and your Botox and, all those things that are on the outside, which, hey, look great,
100%.
feel
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
And it's like, what's happening on the inside, I think is such an attribute to like how we view ourselves, how we view the world, how we're taking care and nurturing ourselves and our families and our businesses. And for me, it was just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I just was so ready to feel good and like have energy and be excited about things and not feel
Exactly.
like depressed.
Right, exactly. And then it builds and builds and
Yeah.
builds. Someone was saying that testosterone is like he describes it as a motivator. I'm like, that's a great, it kind of sums it all up,
Yeah.
right? And that's exactly, I always joke that I will spend money on wellness and travel because wellness, like we can go on, and we've said it multiple times, but that is the foundation of who you are, how you're going to show up to yourself and to the world. And it's like, if you don't have that, everything else is going to crumble, whether it's that year, in 5 years, what
Right.
have you, because we're in such a society that we'll fix something when it's broken
Yeah.
or a quick fix, but it's like, how can you have that longevity?
Mhm.
And so exactly, it's like, of course, if you wanna get Botox, lasers, do whatever you want, but you have to decide, like, where do you wanna spend your money?
Yeah.
Because, if you break up, like, how much a female placement is, it's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks every day.
Mm.
So really just where do you wanna spend your money? Where do you wanna be intentional? And I like you, like, we always wanna say education's the biggest piece. So really explaining what we do and why we do it so they understand we're not just saying, "Oh, yeah, to feel better,"
Right.
or, "Oh, just come get a pellet," but just that time that we spend with, the patients. That's why all follow-ups are free because we want them to have that patient relationship.
Yes. And everybody I've worked with here has been great.
Good.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really
Love to
great.
hear that.
Yeah.
Yes. We do have obviously I'm biased, but we have such a great team.
Yeah.
You guys have such a great team because we know that's what matters,
Yeah.
right?
You care about your clients.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
This was so fun.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
And we're done. This has been a production of Optimal Bio. Optimal Bio is CEO Tyler Brannon, podcast host and partner Jim Baker, medical director Greg Brannon, production assistance by Core Media, Beth Grabencourt, administrator, Kevin Duthu, executive producer. The podcast can be found on our website, optimalbio.com, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Our theme song is Sunwave by Paradiso, provided by Epidemic Sound.